The rejection ceremony was supposed to happen at midnight, but Alpha Marcus didn't even wait for the moon to rise before he ripped out my heart in front of the entire pack. I should have known something was wrong when he told me to wear white. White for the harvest moon celebration. White like a sacrifice. 300 wolves gathered under the amber glow of paper lanterns, their faces flushed with wine and celebration. Children chased each other between the long wooden tables. Elders laughed over old stories, and I stood beside my mate of 3 years, wearing white like a lamb led to slaughter. "My pack," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the courtyard. The conversations died. Even the children stopped running. "Tonight we celebrate more than the harvest. Tonight, we correct a mistake that has weakened our bloodline for too long." My stomach dropped. I felt the eyes shift to me. Felt the weight of 300 gazes pressing down like stones. "Eleanor." Marcus turned to face me. His jaw was set, his blue eyes cold as winter lakes. "You have failed in your duty as Luna. 3 years and no heir. The healers have confirmed what we all suspected. You are barren. Cursed." The word hung in the air like smoke. Cursed. I'd heard it whispered behind my back. In the halls of the pack house, in the market, in the clinic where I'd gone every month, hoping and praying that this time would be different. This time, my body would do what it was supposed to do, but hearing Marcus say it, out loud in front of everyone, was something else entirely. "Marcus," my voice came out small, broken. "Please, not here. Not like this. The pack deserves to witness this," he said. "They deserve to understand why their alpha must take a new Luna." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I saw faces I'd known for years, women I'd helped through childbirth, families I'd visited when they were sick, children I'd taught in the packhouse school. They watched me like I was a stranger, like I was something diseased. I, Marcus Blackwood, alpha of the Silver Ridge Pack, reject you, Elena Valdez, as my mate, and Luna. The words hit me like a physical blow. I staggered back, clutching my chest. The mate bond, that golden thread that had connected my soul to his for 3 years, began to tear. If you've never felt a bond break, I can't explain it to you. It's not just pain. Pain is too small a word. It's like someone reaches inside your chest, grabs hold of everything that makes you you, and rips it out by the roots. I screamed. I couldn't help it. The sound tore from my throat as I dropped to my knees on the cold stone. Through the haze of agony, I heard gasps, whispers, and then, a voice I knew too well. "Marcus, is it done?" I looked up. Serena stood at the edge of the crowd, her dark hair gleaming in the lantern light. My cousin, the girl I'd grown up with, the girl I'd shared secrets with, cried with, laughed with. She was smiling. "It's done," Marcus said. He extended his hand to her. "Come, take your place beside me." Serena walked forward like a queen approaching her throne. She didn't even look at me as she passed. Me, crumpled on the ground, clutching my chest as the bond shredded the last of my strength. "How long?" I managed to choke out. "How long have you been—" "6 months, Serena said, finally deigning to glance down at me. "Maybe longer. But who's counting?" 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of Serena bringing me tea in the mornings, asking about my fertility treatments, telling me to stay hopeful. 6 months of Marcus turning away from me in bed, claiming he was tired, stressed, overwhelmed with pack business. "I never could have given him what she can," Serena continued. She placed her hand on her stomach, and my world stopped. "A child. An heir. Something you were too broken to provide." She was pregnant. Serena was pregnant with my husband's child. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Some faces showed pity. Others showed satisfaction. Marcus's mother stood near the front, her thin lips curved in triumph. She'd never wanted me as Luna. Never thought an Omega was good enough for her precious son. "Remove her from pack territory," Marcus ordered. 2 guards stepped forward. "She is no longer under our protection. She is no longer pack." "Marcus, please." I tried to stand. My legs wouldn't cooperate. "I have nowhere to go. My family is here. Everything I know. Should have thought of that before you proved yourself useless. The guards grabbed my arms. I fought, or tried to. But the bond break had drained everything from me. I was empty, hollow, a shell of the woman I'd been just minutes ago. They dragged me through the crowd, past the tables laden with harvest foods, past the children who stared with wide, confused eyes, past the pack house where I'd lived for 3 years, where I'd made a home, where I'd dreamed of raising children of my own. At the edge of the forest, they threw me onto the cold ground. "Don't come back," one of them said. "Next time, we won't be so gentle." I lay there as their footsteps faded. The sounds of celebration drifted through the trees, music starting up, laughter resuming, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just lost everything. The moon rose, full and silver hanging above the treetops like a judgmental eye. I stared at it as tears streamed down my face, too exhausted to wipe them away. "Get up," a voice in my head whispered. "You can't die here. Not like this." But I wanted to die. The thought surprised me, but it was true. The pain was too much, the emptiness too vast. What was the point of surviving when everything that made life worth living had been torn away? I don't know how long I lay there. Minutes. Hours. The cold seeped into my bones. My teeth chattered. And then, fire. Not outside me. Inside me. A burning sensation started in my left wrist, so intense I cried out. I lifted my arm, squinting through tear-blurred vision. The birthmark. The small, strange mark I'd had since I was born, the one my mother had called a kiss from the moon goddess, was glowing, pulsing with golden light like a living thing. I scrambled backward, staring at my own skin. The mark had always been faint, barely visible unless you looked closely. Now it blazed like a brand, intricate patterns emerging that I'd never seen before. Swirls and lines that looked almost like writing. Ancient writing. "What?" I whispered. "What is this?" The glow intensified, spreading warmth through my frozen body. The pain of the bond break dulled, not gone but muted. Like a wound being bandaged. Strength trickled back into my limbs. I managed to sit up. Then stand. My legs shook, but they held. "Move," that inner voice urged. "Move now. They're coming." Who was coming? The guards. Had Marcus changed his mind and decided to finish me off? I stumbled forward deeper into the forest, away from Silver Ridge territory, away from everything I'd known. Branches scratched my face, roots caught my feet. But I kept moving, the golden glow from my wrist lighting my path like a lantern. I don't know how far I walked, miles maybe, until my body finally gave out and I collapsed against an ancient oak tree, gasping for breath. That's when I heard them. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and a low growl that made every hair on my body stand up. I turned my head slowly, too weak to run. 2 wolves emerged from the shadows, but they were like no wolves I'd ever seen. Massive, nearly twice the size of normal shifters. Their fur was pure white, almost luminescent in the moonlight. And their eyes glowed like molten gold. Wolves like this didn't exist. Not in this region. Not in any region I knew of. I tried to speak, to beg for mercy, to scream. But nothing came out. One of the wolves approached, its golden eyes fixed on my glowing wrist, and something shifted in its expression. Recognition. Reverence. It shifted. The transformation was seamless, beautiful in a way I'd never seen. And where the wolf had been, a man now stood, tall, broad-shouldered, silver-white hair falling past his shoulders, a face that looked like it had been carved from marble, ancient and impossibly handsome. He knelt before me. Actually knelt, like I was something holy. "At last," he breathed. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying an accent I couldn't place. "We have searched for 500 years. 500 years. I shook my head, certain I was delirious. I don't understand. The second wolf shifted too. a woman this time, equally striking with golden eyes that swept over me with wonder. "The mark," she said. "It's awakened, after all this time." "Please," I managed to whisper. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm no one. I'm nothing. I'm just a rejected Omega. Barren. Cursed." The man's expression hardened. Not at me, at my words. "Barren?" He nearly spat the word. "Cursed? Is that what they told you?" "The healers, my mate, everyone." "Then they are fools," he said. "Or liars. Probably both." He reached out, gently taking my glowing wrist. His touch was warm, calming. The mark pulsed brighter at the contact. "You are not barren," he said softly. "You were never meant to bear their children. You were meant for something far greater." I stared at him, uncomprehending. The world was tilting. Darkness crept at the edges of my vision. "Who are you?" I whispered. He smiled, a real smile that transformed his stern features into something almost tender. "I am Kyle, High Commander of the Celestial Pack, and you, Elena Valdez, are our lost queen, the last of the royal bloodline, the one prophesied to unite the wolf kingdoms and bring light to the coming darkness." The words didn't make sense. None of this made sense. But as consciousness slipped away, I heard his voice one last time, gentle as a prayer. "Sleep now, little queen. Your true life is about to begin." And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't dream of Marcus. I dreamed of fire and gold and a destiny I'd never known existed. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine, in a room that couldn't possibly exist. The ceiling soared 30 feet above me, carved from black marble shot through with veins of silver. Moonstone pillars rose at each corner of the massive bed, glowing faintly with inner light. Silk sheets the color of midnight pooled around my body, softer than anything I'd ever touched. For a moment I thought I was dead, that the bond break had finally taken me. And this was whatever afterlife waited for rejected wolves. Then my wrist throbbed, and I remembered. Golden eyes, white wolves, a man kneeling before me like I was something precious. "You are our lost queen." I sat up too fast. My head spun. The room tilted dangerously before settling back into place. "Easy," a female voice, calm and measured. The woman from the forest sat in a chair by the window, morning light casting her silver hair in shades of gold. "You've been unconscious for 2 days. The bond severance nearly killed you." 2 days. I'd lost 2 days. "Where am I?" My voice came out rough, scraped, raw. "Shadowvale Kingdom, the palace of the twin Alpha Kings." She rose, moving toward me with fluid grace. "I am Lyra, High Sentinel of the Royal Guard. Commander Kyle tasked me with watching over you." Shadowvale Kingdom. I'd heard stories, whispered legends that most wolves dismissed as fairy tales. A hidden kingdom ruled by immortal alphas. A place where the moon's power ran through the very stones. "That's not real," I said. "Shadowvale is a myth." Lyra's lips curved. "So is the divine Luna. Yet here you are with her mark blazing on your skin." I looked down at my wrist. The mark was still there, no longer glowing but somehow different. Darker, more defined. The patterns I'd glimpsed in the forest were clearly visible now, intricate swirls that formed shapes I almost recognized. Wolves, moons, stars. "I don't understand any of this." "You will." Lyra moved to a wardrobe carved from the same black marble as everything else. "But first you need to eat, bathe, make yourself presentable. The kings wish to see you." Kings, plural. I remembered Kale's words. High Commander of the Celestial Pack, not king. Commander. "You said kings," I said. "But the man in the forest, Kale, he called himself a commander." Something flickered across Lyra's face. Amusement, maybe. Or warning. Kale is many things. Commander of our armies, protector of the realm, and yes, king. One half of the twin thrones. She pulled a dress from the wardrobe, midnight blue velvet, that probably cost more than everything I'd ever owned combined. His brother Damon holds the other half. They rule together. Always have. Always will. Twin kings. Twin thrones. This was getting more complicated by the minute. I need to leave, I said. I need to... To what? Go back to Silver Ridge, where my ex-mate was probably already celebrating his new Luna? Find my family, who had stood silent while I was humiliated and cast out. I had nowhere to go, no one waiting for me, nothing. The realization hit harder than I expected. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. I'd done enough crying in that forest to last a lifetime. You can't leave, Lyra said, not unkindly, even if you wanted to. The Shadow Wolf clans have been hunting you since the moment your mark awakened. Their scouts are everywhere. You wouldn't make it 10 miles before they found you. Why would anyone be hunting me? I'm nobody. Lyra set the dress on the bed and met my eyes. Hers were gold, like Kyle's, but softer, warmer. You are the divine Luna, she said, the one prophesied to unite the twin kings and bear the next generation of god-blooded wolves. To some, that makes you the most valuable creature in existence. To others, it makes you the greatest threat. She paused. Get dressed. The kings will explain everything. She left before I could argue. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the impossible dress on the impossible bed in the impossible room. Then I did the only thing I could do. I got up and got dressed. The palace was even more overwhelming than my bedroom. Endless corridors of black marble and moonstone lit by floating orbs of silver light, tapestries depicting wolves and moons and battles I didn't recognize. Servants in white livery who bowed as I passed, their eyes wide with something that looked disturbingly like reverence. Lyra led me through it all without comment, her boots clicking steadily against the polished floors. Finally, we stopped before a set of doors that rose 20 feet high, carved with an image of 2 wolves circling a crescent moon. The throne room, Lyra said. They're waiting. She pushed the doors open. The room beyond was vast, cathedral-like. Columns of twisted moonstone lined the walls, and at the far end, on a raised dais, sat 2 thrones carved from a single block of obsidian. They curved toward each other, almost touching, 2 halves of a whole. And in those thrones sat the most beautiful men I'd ever seen. Kale I recognized. Silver-white hair, golden eyes, that face like carved marble. He wore black armor trimmed with silver, and his expression was exactly as cold as it had been in the forest. Maybe colder. But the other one, Damon, I assumed, was something else entirely. His hair was black where Kyle's was white, falling in waves past his shoulders. His eyes were the same molten gold, but they burned where Kyle's froze. He wore crimson instead of black, and when he saw me, his entire face transformed with a smile that could have melted glaciers. There she is, he breathed. He rose from his throne and descended the steps in 3 quick strides, crossing the room before I could think to back away. Our lost queen, finally home. He reached for my hand. I flinched. He stopped immediately, the smile fading into something gentler, more careful. Forgive me, he said. I've waited 5 centuries for this moment. I forget that you haven't. Damon. Kyle's voice cracked across the room like a whip. Control yourself. I am controlled, Damon said, not looking away from me. I'm simply not made of ice, brother. One of us should make her feel welcome. And one of us should wait for proof before acting like a lovesick fool. The words stung, not because they were directed at me, though they were, at least partially, but because of what they implied. Kyle didn't believe I was really their mate. After everything, after the mark, after finding me half dead in the forest, he still thought I might be. What? A fraud? A trick? I straightened my spine, lifted my chin. I'd spent 3 years being dismissed and doubted by Marcus. I'd be damned if I was going to cower before another alpha who thought I wasn't good enough. You're right to be suspicious, I said, meeting Kyle's cold golden eyes. You don't know me. I don't know you. And I have no idea what any of this means. I held up my marked wrist, but I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be rejected and thrown out like garbage. I didn't ask to wake up in a palace with 2 kings fighting over whether I'm worth their time. So if you want proof, find it. Test me. Do whatever you need to do. But don't treat me like I'm the one who caused this situation. Silence. Damon looked delighted. Kyle looked surprised. Maybe even impressed. She has fire, Damon said. I like her already. Fire burns out, Kyle replied, but something in his expression had shifted. Just slightly. He rose from his throne and descended the steps, moving with a predator's grace. When he reached me, he stopped close enough that I could smell him. Pine and winter wind and something deeper, more primal. The mark on your wrist, he said. Do you know what it is? Your sentinel called it the seal of the divine Luna. Did she explain what that means? No. Kyle studied me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked to one of the moonstone columns. He pressed his hand against the surface, and light rippled outward, forming images in the air like a living tapestry. Thousands of years ago, he began, our mother, the moon goddess herself, bore 2 sons. Twins, but not ordinary twins. She gave us one soul to share between 2 bodies. A blessing, she called it. A bond that would make us stronger than any alpha who had ever lived. His jaw tightened. She was wrong. It was not a blessing. It was a curse. The images shifted. 2 boys, silver-haired and golden-eyed, standing back to back, then growing, fighting, tearing at each other with words and claws. We cannot live in peace, Kyle continued. We cannot love without jealousy. We cannot lead without conflict. Our soul is fractured, and we have spent 5 centuries trying to destroy each other with the half each of us holds. The only thing that can heal us, Damon said quietly, coming to stand beside me, is our fated mate, the divine Luna, the one woman in all of existence whose soul is strong enough to unite our halves into a whole. I stared at the images, the 2 brothers, fighting and bleeding through centuries of conflict. Then I looked at them now, standing on either side of me, still divided, still fractured. Why me? I asked. Why would I be able to do something like that? Because of your bloodline, Kyle said. The Valdez line is ancient, far older than you know. Your ancestors were the first wolves, the ones our mother created with her own hands. The divine blood has been dormant for generations, diluted by time and forgotten matings. But in you, it awakened. That's why you couldn't bear children with your former mate, Damon added. Your womb wasn't broken, it was sealed, protected by ancient magic waiting for your true mates. His eyes met mine, burning with intensity. Waiting for us? I took a step back, then another. My heart was racing, my thoughts spinning so fast I couldn't catch any of them. This is insane, I said. I'm not divine. I'm not anyone. I spent 3 years being told I was defective, broken, a curse on my pack. Now you're telling me I'm some kind of prophesied queen. Yes, Damon said simply. And I'm supposed to just believe that? After everything? You don't have to believe it, Kyle said. His voice was flat, cold. Belief is irrelevant. The mark doesn't lie. The magic doesn't lie. Whatever doubts you have, whatever trauma your former pack inflicted on you, it doesn't change the truth. The truth? I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. You want to talk about truth? Here's some truth for you. I spent 3 years trying to give Marcus a child. 3 years of treatments and prayers and hope, and every single month I failed. I watched my own cousin get pregnant by my husband while I couldn't even... My voice cracked. I pressed my hand to my mouth, fighting for control. Damon moved toward me again. This time I didn't flinch away. He didn't touch me, but he stood close enough that I could feel his warmth. "None of that was your fault," he said softly. "The healer who examined you, who declared you barren, she lied." I froze. "What?" "We have sources in many packs," Kyle said, "including Silver Ridge. The healer, Constance, was paid to give that diagnosis, paid by someone who knew what you were and wanted to keep you hidden, to keep you from ever finding your way to us." The room tilted. I reached out blindly, and Damon caught my arm, steadying me. Constance. I remembered her. Gentle hands, kind eyes, the pity in her voice when she'd told me I would never bear children. "I'm so sorry, Luna. There's nothing more we can do." She'd been lying. The whole time. Someone had paid her to destroy my life, my marriage, my sense of self, all to keep me from fulfilling some prophecy I hadn't even known existed. "Who?" I demanded. "Who paid her?" "We don't know yet," Kyle admitted. "But we will find out." "It could be many enemies," Damon said. "The Shadow Wolf clans would do anything to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled. There are also wolves within our own kingdom who fear what a united throne would mean for their power." His hand was still on my arm, warm and steady. "You are a threat to many, Elena, but you are also a hope to many more." I pulled away from him, walked to one of the tall windows. Outside, a world I didn't recognize stretched before me. Mountains of black stone, forests of silver-leafed trees, a sky that seemed perpetually caught between dusk and dawn. "I don't want to be anyone's threat," I said, "or anyone's hope. I just want—" What did I want? Yesterday, if I could even remember yesterday anymore, I'd wanted to die, to let the bond break, finish what it started and fade into nothing. Now I wasn't sure. "What do you want?" Damon asked, appearing at my shoulder. "Tell us. Whatever it is, we'll do everything in our power to give it to you." I turned to face them both. Kyle had remained by the column, watching me with those cold golden eyes. Damon stood close, radiating warmth and hope. "I want answers," I said. "Real ones. I want to know who did this to me and why. I want to know what this mark actually means and what's expected of me. And I hesitated. "I want to be treated like a person, not a prophecy, not a savior, not a breeding vessel for God-blooded children. A person." Damon nodded immediately. "Done." Kyle said nothing. "And you?" I asked him directly. "You clearly don't believe I'm your mate. What do you want?" Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or anger, or both. "I want the same thing I've wanted for 5 centuries, he said. "Peace. An end to the curse that has made my brother and me enemies when we should be family. If you are truly the divine Luna, then you are the answer to that prayer." He paused. "But I have seen false hopes before. Women who bore marks that looked similar. Women who claimed to be our salvation. They were all lies. So forgive me if I do not fall at your feet like my brother. I will believe when I have proof. Not before." It was honest. Brutal, but honest. I could respect that. "Then find your proof," I said. "Test me. Whatever you need to do. But while you're doing that, I want training. If the Shadow Wolf clans are hunting me, I won't be helpless. I spent 3 years being told I was weak. I'm done with that." Damon grinned. "I like this one, brother. I really do." Kyle's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. The hostility eased, just slightly. "Training can be arranged," he said. "Lyra will oversee it personally. But understand this, Elena Valdez. If you are our mate, then you are also our queen. And queens in Shadowvale do not get the luxury of hiding. You will be a target. You will be tested. And there are those in this very palace who will try to destroy you before you can fulfill your purpose." "I've already been destroyed once," I said. "I survived. Whatever comes next, I'll survive that too." The words hung in the air between us. Damon's smile widened. Even Kale's lips twitched, the ghost of an expression that might have been approval. "Then welcome to Shadow Vale, Elena," Damon said. He took my hand and pressed his lips to my knuckles. And I felt something spark through the contact, something warm and electric and terrifying. "Your new life begins now." Through the windows, a horn sounded, low and ominous. Kyle's head snapped toward the sound. His golden eyes went hard. "The Shadow Wolves," he said. "They've breached the outer perimeter." Damon's playful demeanor vanished instantly. "How many?" "Enough." Kyle was already moving toward the doors. "They know she's here. They're coming for her." He paused at the threshold and looked back at me. For just a moment, something human flickered beneath the ice. "Stay close to Lyra," he said. "Do not leave the palace. And do not, under any circumstances, trust anyone who is not the three of us." Then he was gone, Damon on his heels, and I was left, standing alone, in the throne room of a kingdom I didn't know. Marked by a destiny I didn't understand, hunted by enemies I couldn't see. Your new life begins now. I stared at the twin thrones, two halves of a whole, and wondered what I'd gotten myself into. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3. 3 days after the Shadow Wolf scouts were driven back, the whole supernatural world knew my name. I learned this from Lyra, who delivered the news with her usual blunt efficiency while I struggled to block her training sword. "Every pack from here to the Eastern Sea is talking about you," she said, sweeping my legs out from under me. I hit the training mat hard enough to rattle my teeth. The divine Luna, risen from obscurity. Some are calling it a miracle, others are calling it a lie, and a few— she offered me a hand up— a few are calling it an opportunity. Opportunity for what? That depends on who's asking. She reset her stance, sword raised. Again. I'd been training every day since arriving at Shadow Vale. My muscles screamed, my bones ached, but I refused to stop. Every bruise, every sore joint, every moment of exhaustion was proof that I was becoming something other than the weak, broken Omega Silver Ridge had tried to make me. The Twin Kings have received 17 formal requests for alliance, Lyra continued as we circled each other. 12 marriage proposals from lesser alphas who somehow think they have a claim on you. And 3 declarations of war. I stumbled. War. The Shadow Wolf clans consider your existence an act of aggression against their goddess. The Crimson Priestess has declared a blood hunt. Lyra's blade whistled past my ear. Focus. Your enemies won't wait for you to process information before they strike. I blocked her next attack. Barely. Who is the Crimson Priestess? The leader of the Shadow Wolf cult. She believes that sacrificing you will grant her the power to overthrow the moon goddess herself. Lyra's gold eyes met mine. She's been waiting for the divine Luna to appear for centuries. Now that you have, she'll stop at nothing to see you dead. Wonderful. As if I didn't have enough problems. We trained for another hour before Lyra finally called a halt. I collapsed onto a bench, gulping water and trying to convince my legs they were still attached to my body. You're improving, Lyra said. Coming from her, it was practically a declaration of love. Your instincts are good. Better than good. The divine blood is waking up. Doesn't feel like it. It will. She handed me a towel. The Kings want to see you. There's been a development. The way she said it made my stomach clench. What kind of development? Lyra's expression went carefully blank. Your former alpha is at the gates. I found the twins in the war room, a massive chamber filled with maps and strategy tables and enough weapons to arm a small nation. Damon paced like a caged wolf, his usual warmth replaced by barely contained fury. Kyle stood motionless by the window, but the air around him practically crackled with cold rage. He has no right, Damon was saying as I entered. No claim. The rejection was witnessed by 300 wolves. She is not his anymore. He's invoking the old laws, Kyle replied, claiming the rejection was never formalized under ancient pack tradition, that without the proper rituals she remains his property. Property. Damon spat the word like poison. I'll tear his throat out. You'll do nothing until we understand his game. His game is obvious. He wants her back. I say we give him back. In pieces. I cleared my throat. Both kings turned. Damon's fury softened instantly when he saw me, though the tension in his shoulders remained. Kyle's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those cold golden eyes. Elena. Damon crossed to me, stopping just short of touching. He'd been careful about that since our first meeting, never pushing, always waiting for permission. You shouldn't have to deal with this. We can handle him. He's my problem, I said. I want to see him. Absolutely not, Damon shook his head. He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as you, let alone… I want to see him, I repeated. I spent 3 years being controlled by that man. 3 years of being told what I could say, where I could go, who I could be. I won't hide from him now. I won't give him that power over me. Silence. Kyle studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Let her face him. Damon whirled on his brother. Have you lost your mind? She's right. If she hides, he wins. If she faces him. Kyle's lips curved, the first real smile I'd ever seen from him, cold and sharp as a blade. Let him see what he threw away. Marcus looked smaller than I remembered. He stood at the palace gates with a contingent of Silver Ridge wolves, his beta and warriors flanking him like he was still someone important. But here, surrounded by the black marble towers of Shadowvale, he looked diminished. Ordinary. I'd spent 3 years thinking this man held my entire world in his hands. Now I could barely remember why. Elena. He stepped forward as I approached, his blue eyes sweeping over me, taking in the midnight blue gown, the silver circlet Lyra had insisted I wear, the mark glowing faintly on my wrist. You look… different. I am different. This is ridiculous. He gestured at the palace, the guards, the twins standing like sentinels on either side of me. Whatever they've told you, whatever promises they've made, it's lies. You belong with your pack, with your alpha. You rejected me, I said calmly, in front of 300 wolves. You called me cursed, barren. You threw me out like garbage. A mistake. He had the audacity to look contrite. I was under pressure. My mother, the council, they convinced me you were the problem. But I know better now. Do you? Serena can't conceive. The words came out bitter, angry. Just like you couldn't. The pack is saying I'm the one who's cursed, that the goddess is punishing me for what I did to you. He took another step forward. The twins tensed, but I held up a hand to stop them. Come back, Elena. I'll make you Luna again. We can try again, with real healers this time, not that fraud Constance. You knew. The realization hit me like a physical blow. You knew Constance lied about my diagnosis. Marcus's face went pale. You knew, I repeated, my voice rising. That's why you're here. Not because you want me back, because you found out the truth, and you realized you threw away the only woman who could actually give you an heir. Elena, you don't want a Luna. You want a breeding vessel. The words tasted like ash and fire. That's all I ever was to you, wasn't it? A means to an end. And when you thought I couldn't fulfill that purpose, you discarded me for the first woman who could spread her legs. Watch your tongue. Marcus's eyes flashed. The alpha command rolled off him, the same power that had kept me silent and obedient for 3 years. It bounced off me like rain off stone. I felt it, that faint pressure, that compulsion to submit, and I felt it fail. Whatever I was becoming, it was no longer something Marcus Blackwood could control. I, Elena Valdez, reject you, Marcus Blackwood, as my mate and alpha. The words came out steady, strong. I reject your claim, your pack, and every lie you ever told me. The bond between us is severed, completely, forever. Power surged through me, hot and silver and wild. It poured out of my chest, out of the mark on my wrist, out of somewhere deeper than I knew I had. And when it hit Marcus, he flew, not stumbled, not staggered, flew, 20 feet across the courtyard, slamming into the stone wall with a crack that echoed off the mountains. His wolves scrambled to help him, their faces masks of shock. I stared at my hands. They were glowing. Faint silver light pulsed under my skin, fading slowly as my heartbeat returned to normal. "What?" I whispered. "The divine power," Damon breathed beside me. His voice was awed, reverent. "It's awakening." Marcus struggled to his feet, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. His eyes were wild, not with anger anymore, but with fear. "You're not human," he said. "You're not even wolf. What are you?" I didn't answer. I honestly didn't know. "Leave," Kyle commanded. His voice carried across the courtyard, cold as Arctic wind. "Return to your pathetic pack and pray we don't decide to follow. The next time you set foot in our territory, you will die." Marcus looked at me one last time. I saw it in his face, the realization that he'd made a terrible mistake, that the woman he'd thrown away was becoming something far beyond anything he could have claimed. Then he turned and fled. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Wolves came to congratulate me, to offer fealty, to stare at me like I was some kind of miracle. I smiled and nodded and tried not to feel like an imposter wearing someone else's crown. By evening, I was exhausted. I retreated to my chambers, desperate for silence and solitude, only to find Damon waiting in the corridor outside my door. "You were magnificent today," he said. Marcus never knew what hit him, literally. I laughed despite myself. I have no idea what I did. "You tapped into your power, the divine essence that's been sleeping inside you all these years." He stepped closer and I didn't move away. It responds to strong emotion, threat, need. The more you connect with it, the stronger it will grow. "And the bond?" I asked. "The one I'm supposed to form with both of you?" Something complicated crossed Damon's face. "The bond forms through connection, through trust, through..." He hesitated. "Through intimacy. Not necessarily physical, though that helps. Emotional, spiritual. When your soul recognizes ours, the bond will complete itself. And if it doesn't, if I can't bond with both of you, then the prophecy fails, and we remain cursed." He said it simply, without self-pity. "But I believe you can. I believe you're exactly who we've been waiting for. Your brother doesn't share your faith." "My brother is afraid." Damon's voice softened. 5 centuries of disappointment have taught him to guard his heart. But I've seen the way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. He feels the pull too. He just refuses to admit it. I didn't know what to say to that, so I changed the subject. "The Crimson Priestess, the Blood Hunt. How worried should I be? Worried enough to stay alert, but you're safe here. The palace wards have held for millennia. No assassin can breach." He stopped. His head snapped toward the end of the corridor, nostrils flaring. "What is it?" "Something's wrong." He grabbed my arm, pulling me behind him. "Stay close." A shadow moved at the end of the hall. Then another. Dark figures materialized from the walls themselves, wrapped in crimson cloth that seemed to absorb the light. "Assassins!" Damon growled. "Down!" He shifted in an instant. Not the slow transformation I was used to, but something explosive and immediate. One moment he was a man. The next he was a massive white wolf with golden eyes blazing like twin suns. The assassins attacked. There were 5 of them, moving with inhuman speed and precision. They wielded curved blades that gleamed with sickly purple light, poisoned I realized, coated with something that made my divine mark burn in warning. Damon fought like a demon. He tore through two of them before they could even raise their weapons, his jaws snapping and claws slashing, but the others were fast, too fast, and they weren't aiming for him. They were aiming for me. I tried to run. One of them cut me off. I dodged, feeling the blade whistle past my throat. Another grabbed my arm, yanking me forward. I screamed, but it came out as a roar, and silver light exploded from my body. The assassin flew back, smoking and screaming, but the others recovered quickly. One of them drew back his blade, aiming straight for my heart, and Damon threw himself in front of me. The poisoned blade sank into his chest. For a moment, everything stopped. Damon staggered, his wolf form flickering, unstable. Then he collapsed at my feet, shifting back to human as he fell. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and spreading, and his golden eyes found mine. "Run," he whispered. "No." I dropped to my knees beside him. "No, no, no." The remaining assassins closed in. I could hear shouting from somewhere far away. Guards, maybe Kale, but they were too far. They wouldn't reach us in time. Damon was dying. I could feel it. His life was slipping away like water through my fingers, and something inside me screamed in protest. No. I pressed my hands to his chest. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know if it would work, but I poured everything I had into the gesture, every ounce of fear and desperation and grief, every spark of power I'd discovered in myself. Please. Please don't take him. Please. The mark on my wrist exploded with light. Silver fire erupted from my body, blasting outward in a wave that turned the remaining assassins to ash. But I barely noticed. All my focus was on Damon, on the wound in his chest, on the poison blackening his veins, on the life fading from his eyes. I poured myself into him, my power, my strength, my very essence. I felt something click into place, something massive and irreversible like a key turning in a lock that had waited centuries to open. The wound closed. The poison burned away. Colour returned to Damon's face and he gasped, his eyes flying open. "Elena," he breathed. "What did you—" I kissed him. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Or the bond I could now feel thrumming between us, golden and warm and utterly unbreakable. He responded instantly, his hand coming up to cut my face, pulling me closer, deeper. When we finally broke apart, I was crying. "You're alive," I whispered. "You're alive, you're alive. Because of you." His eyes were wet too. "You saved me. You bonded with me." The truth of it resonated through every fibre of my being. I could feel him now, his emotions, his thoughts, the steady beat of his heart. We were connected in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. "Elena." I turned. Kyle stood at the end of the corridor, surrounded by dead assassins and royal guards. But he wasn't looking at the destruction. He was looking at us, at me and Damon, tangled together on the blood-stained floor, bound by a bond that glowed visible gold between our hearts. His face was a mask, but his eyes, those cold golden eyes, burned with something I couldn't name. "You bonded with him," he said. His voice was flat, dead. Only him. I opened my mouth. I had no words. Lyra stepped forward, her face pale. "Your Majesty, the prophecy says—" "I know what the prophecy says." Kyle cut her off without looking away from me. "It says the divine Luna must bond with both twins to heal the fractured soul. One bond without the other creates an imbalance, an instability." He paused. "A death sentence." My blood turned to ice. "What do you mean?" "I mean that you've just sealed our fates." Kyle's voice cracked. "Just slightly, just for a moment. The bond you formed with my brother is incomplete, and an incomplete bond between divine mates doesn't stabilize. It unravels. If you don't bond with me as well—" He stopped, swallowed. "All three of us will die." The words hung in the air like a verdict. I looked at Damon, who was staring at his brother with horror dawning on his face, then at Kale, who stood alone and apart, watching us with eyes that held centuries of pain. I'd tried to save one of them, and I might have killed us all. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. I watched Kyle die by inches over the next 2 weeks. It wasn't dramatic. No coughing blood or collapsing in hallways. It was subtler than that, and somehow worse. The silver fading from his hair, strand by strand, until patches of dull grey appeared at his temples, the light dimming in his golden eyes. The way he moved slower each day, as if his bones had turned to lead. Damon, meanwhile, had never looked more alive. His power radiated from him like heat from a forge, his eyes burning so bright they were almost painful to look at. He moved through the palace like a force of nature, stronger and faster than ever. The shared soul was tearing them apart. And it was my fault. "You need to eat," Lyra said, setting a tray beside me in the library where I'd buried myself in ancient texts. "Starving yourself won't help him. Neither will eating." I pushed aside a scroll written in a language I couldn't read. "There has to be another way. Something in these books, some ritual that can stabilize the bond without Cale accepting it?" Lyra sat across from me, her gold eyes sharp. "There isn't. The bond between divine mates is absolute. It cannot be tricked or circumvented. Both twins must be bonded to the Luna, or all three die." "Then why won't he let me bond with him?" The words came out raw, frustrated. "I've tried. Every time I get close, he pulls away. He won't even look at me anymore." "Because he's afraid." I looked up. Lyra's expression had softened, a rare occurrence. "Kyle wasn't always like this," she said quietly. "Cold, closed off. Centuries ago he was the warm one, the one who believed in love and fate and the goodness of others. Damon was the cynic." She paused. Then Isadora happened. "Who's Isadora?" Lyra hesitated. For a long moment I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she sighed. "A woman who claimed to be their fated mate. She appeared out of nowhere, bearing a mark that looked almost exactly like yours. Kyle fell for her completely. He gave her his heart, his trust, everything he had." Her jaw tightened. "She was an agent of the Crimson Priestess, sent to infiltrate the palace, gain their trust, and assassinate them both." My blood ran cold. What happened? Damon saw through her. He never trusted her, never stopped watching her. When she made her move, a poisoned blade aimed at Cale's heart, Damon killed her. Lyra met my eyes. Cale has never forgiven himself for being fooled, and some part of him has never forgiven his brother for being right. I thought of the tension between them, the way they circled each other like wolves uncertain whether to fight or flee. 5 centuries of that wound festering between them. "So he thinks I might be another Isadora." "No," Lyra shook her head. "He knows you're real. The mark, the power, the bond with Damon, none of it can be faked. What he's afraid of is something worse." "What could be worse?" "Loving you, and destroying you the way he believes he destroyed her." I found him in the Eastern Tower as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. He stood at the window, his back to me, but I knew he sensed my presence. The partial bond between us hummed with awareness, faint compared to what I felt with Damon, but there, always there. "You shouldn't be here," he said without turning. "You've been avoiding me for 2 weeks. Someone has to make the first move. And you think that should be you? I think if I wait for you, we'll both be dead before anything changes." He turned then. My heart clenched at the sight of him, the grey in his hair more pronounced now, the shadows under his eyes deeper. He was still beautiful, still powerful, but he was fading, like a star burning out. "Lyra told you about Isadora?" It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Then you understand why I can't do this. I understand why you're afraid." I stepped closer. He tensed but didn't move away. I understand that you loved someone who betrayed you, and that pain doesn't just disappear because centuries pass. But Cale, I'm not her. You think I don't know that? His voice cracked, the ice in his eyes fractured, showing something raw and wounded beneath. I've watched you for weeks. The way you train until you collapse, the way you study these ancient texts even though half of them are in languages you can't read. The way you look at my brother like he hung the moon, and the way you look at me like you're waiting for me to break. That's not. It is. He turned back to the window. You pity me. You feel guilty because your bond with Damon is killing me. You want to save me out of obligation, not desire. And I would rather die than be bonded to someone who sees me as a duty to fulfill. I stared at his back, at the rigid set of his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the windowsill hard enough to crack the stone. And suddenly, I was angry. You arrogant, self-pitying fool. He spun around, eyes wide. You think I'm here out of pity? Out of obligation? I advanced on him, and this time he actually backed up. I've spent the last 2 weeks terrified. Not just because you're dying, though that's bad enough, but because every time I'm near you, I feel something I can't explain. Something that has nothing to do with prophecies or bonds or saving the world. Eleanor, I dream about you, I continued, the words pouring out like water through a broken dam. Every night. I dream about your voice, your hands, the way you looked at me that first moment in the forest. And when I wake up, I ache. Not from the bond, not from guilt, from wanting something I don't think I'm allowed to have. He'd stopped retreating. His back hit the wall, and still I kept coming until we were inches apart. I'm not Isadora, I said, softer now. I'm not a trick or a test or a weapon sent to destroy you. I'm just a woman who's spent her whole life being told she was worthless, finally starting to believe she might be something more. And part of that belief, a bigger part than I want to admit, comes from you. From me? His voice was barely a whisper. You were the first one to kneel before me, the first one to call me queen, the first one to look at me like I mattered. I reached up, brushing my fingers against his cheek. He shuddered at the contact. You might not trust yourself, Kyle, but I trust you. And if you'll let me, I want to prove that some bonds are worth the risk. For a long moment he didn't move, didn't breathe. His golden eyes searched mine, looking for deception, for doubt, for any sign that I didn't mean every word. Whatever he found there must have been enough. He kissed me. It wasn't like kissing Damon, all fire and urgency and consuming heat. This was different, slower, deeper. Like falling into water so clear you could see all the way to the bottom. His hands came up to frame my face, gentle as if I was something precious, and I felt the bond between us pulse, not complete, not yet, but closer, so much closer. When we finally broke apart, we were both trembling. I don't deserve you, he murmured against my lips. Probably not, I agreed, but you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed, an actual laugh, rusty from disuse but real, and the sound of it made my heart soar. Then the alarm started screaming. We raced through the palace corridors, the mood shattered by the wailing sirens and the thunder of running feet. Damon met us at the war room doors, his face grim. The Crimson Priestess, he said. She's breached the outer walls. How? Kyle demanded. Those wards have held for millennia. She's not attacking with normal forces. Damon's jaw tightened. She's brought the soulless. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd read about them in the ancient texts. Wolves who'd been stripped of their humanity through dark magic, their souls ripped out and replaced with nothing but hunger and rage. Mindless killing machines that felt no pain, no fear, no mercy. How many? I asked. Hundreds. Maybe more. Damon looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw fear in his eyes. They're already in the lower courtyards. We ran. The battle was chaos. I'd trained for 2 weeks, discovering combat instincts I never knew I possessed. Memories from past divine lunas had been bleeding through. Muscle memory, fighting techniques, tactical awareness that shouldn't have been mine. But nothing could have prepared me for this. The soulless were nightmares given form. Wolves with empty eyes and rotting flesh, moving in perfect unison like puppets on strings. They didn't growl or snarl. They were utterly silent, which somehow made them worse. Silver moonlight illuminated the carnage as Shadowvale's warriors clashed with the undead army. I fought beside the twins, my newfound power singing through my veins. Silver light erupted from my hands, burning the soulless wherever it touched. But for everyone I destroyed, 3 more took its place. "There are too many," Lyra shouted, cutting down 2 wolves with a single sweep of her blade. "We need to fall back to the inner keep." "No," Kyle's voice was ice and iron. "We hold the line here, or we lose everything." A wave of soulless crashed against our position. I raised my hands, power building, and then I saw her. A wolf among the horde, smaller than the others, with fur that had once been auburn but was now matted and grey. She moved with the same empty-eyed hunger as the rest, but something about her made me freeze. She shifted. The woman who emerged was gaunt, hollowed out, a shell of whoever she'd once been. But her face... "No," I whispered. I knew that face. I'd seen it in photographs, in dreams, in the mirror every morning of my life. "Mum?" The word escaped before I could stop it. The woman, the thing that had been my mother, turned toward me. There was no recognition in her eyes, no love, no memory, no soul, just emptiness. "Elena!" Damon grabbed my arm. "What are you doing? Move!" I couldn't. I was frozen, staring at the mother I'd been told died when I was 5 years old. The mother whose funeral I'd attended, whose grave I'd visited every year, whose loss had shaped the entire course of my life. She was alive. She was here. And she was one of them. "Ah." A new voice cut through the chaos, smooth, cultured, dripping with satisfaction. "She finally sees." The battle around us seemed to pause. The soulless stopped their advance, standing motionless like soldiers awaiting orders. And through their ranks walked a woman who could only be the Crimson Priestess. She was beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, sharp, cold, designed for destruction. Her hair was the deep red of dried blood, flowing past her waist. Her eyes were black, completely black, without iris or white. And she wore robes the colour of fresh wounds, moving around her as if alive. "Elena Valdez," she said, stopping 20 feet away. "The divine Luna, the prophesied queen, the hope of a kingdom." Her black lips curved. "My finest creation." "What are you talking about?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You don't understand yet," she laughed, a sound like breaking bones. "Oh, this is precious. You have no idea how much of your life I've shaped." She gestured, and my mother shambled forward. Up close, I could see the scars on her wrists, her throat, her temples, places where something had been done to her, something terrible. "Maria Valdez was supposed to die in childbirth," the priestess said. "That was the original plan. Kill the mother, take the child, sacrifice her before her power could manifest. But she survived. Inconvenient," she tilted her head. "So I had to adapt. I took her instead, made her one of mine, and I placed you with a family who would never suspect what you truly were." The Valdez family, the people I'd called my parents, my father who'd been so cold, my stepmother who'd barely tolerated me. "They weren't my family," I breathed. "Of course not. They were hired caretakers, paid to raise you in mediocrity, to make you believe you were ordinary. Worthless." The priestess smiled. "And when that wasn't enough, when you somehow managed to catch an alpha's attention, I arranged for your diagnosis. Dr. Constance was mine long before she was Silver Ridge's healer." The world was spinning. Everything I'd believed about my life, every memory, every relationship, every moment of pain and rejection had been orchestrated, controlled, by this monster in red robes. Why? The word came out broken. Why not just kill me? Because I needed you weak. The priestess's black eyes gleamed. The divine Luna's power is tied to her sense of self. A strong, confident Luna could have resisted my ritual, but one who's been systematically broken, who believes in her bones that she's defective and cursed? She laughed again. You'll be so much easier to sacrifice. Rage erupted through me, hot and silver and blinding. Power I didn't know I had surged to the surface, and I felt the marks on my wrist blazing like captured stars. You destroyed my life, I growled. You took my mother. You stole my identity. You made me hate myself for years. Yes, the priestess spread her arms wide, and I'd do it again. All of it. For the power your blood will give me. She snapped her fingers. My mother lunged at me. I couldn't fight her. I couldn't raise my hand against the woman who'd given me life, even though there was nothing left of her behind those empty eyes. I stumbled backward and she was on me, teeth bared, claws reaching for my throat. Kyle tackled her from the side. They rolled across the courtyard, snarling and snapping. My mother fought with the mindless ferocity of the soulless, but Kyle was still an immortal king, weakened or not. He pinned her down, his hand at her throat. "Eleanor!" he shouted. "She's gone! Whatever this was, she's gone now! You have to let her go!" Tears streamed down my face. I knew he was right. I could feel the absence where her soul should have been, just emptiness, just hunger. The mother I might have known had been dead for decades. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I raised my hand. Silver light erupted from my palm. Pure and merciful. It struck my mother, struck the thing wearing her face, and she dissolved into ash and moonlight. No pain, no fear, just release. The priestess shrieked with rage. "Kill them!" she screamed. "Kill them all!" The soulless surged forward, hundreds of them, an unstoppable wave of death and decay. Shadowvale's warriors formed up around us, but we were outnumbered, exhausted, facing an enemy that didn't tire or fear. Damon appeared at my side, his hand finding mine. A moment later, Kyle was there too, his fingers intertwining with my other hand. The three of us stood together as the horde descended. "If we die," Damon said almost cheerfully, "at least we die together." "We're not dying today," Kyle replied. His voice was stronger than it had been in weeks. Something had changed in the tower, something that was giving him strength even without the completed bond. "Eleanor, whatever you're feeling right now, the rage, the grief, the power, let it out. All of it. We'll anchor you." I looked at him, at both of them, the twin kings of Shadowvale, bound to me by fate and choice and something that was beginning to feel like love. Then I looked at the Crimson Priestess, standing behind her army of stolen souls with triumph in her black eyes. She'd taken everything from me, my mother, my identity, my chance at a normal life. She'd broken me down piece by piece, year by year, waiting for this moment. She thought she'd created a perfect victim. She was wrong. I closed my eyes, reached deep inside myself, past the fear and grief and doubt, to the core of power that had been sleeping there all along. The divine essence that was my birthright, not because of prophecy or destiny, but because it had always been mine. I felt Damon's fire on one side, Kyle's ice on the other, the partial bonds pulsing in harmony, feeding me strength. I opened my eyes, and I became the storm. Light exploded from my body, not silver anymore, but gold, pure, blinding gold that swept across the courtyard like a tidal wave. The soulless screamed as it touched them, their corrupted forms burning away to nothing. The priestess threw up a shield of dark magic, but my light crashed against it like a hammer against glass. When the glow finally faded, half the soulless army was gone, and the Crimson Priestess was staring at me with something I'd never expected to see in those black eyes. Fear. "This isn't over," she snarled. Her form began to dissolve, bleeding into shadows. "You've only delayed the inevitable. I will have your blood, divine Luna. I will have your power. and I will burn this kingdom to ash." She vanished. The remaining soulless collapsed, strings cut, falling to the ground as lifeless corpses. Silence descended over the courtyard, the silence of survival, of impossible victory. I swayed on my feet. Damon caught me before I could fall. "Easy," he murmured. "I've got you." Kyle appeared on my other side, his arm sliding around my waist. He was still pale, still weakened, but there was light in his eyes again. Hope. "You did it," he said softly. "You drove her back." "She'll return," I managed. She said, "She'll return," Kyle agreed. "And when she does, we'll be ready." He leaned down, pressing his forehead to mine. All three of us. Together. The bond between us pulsed, still incomplete but stronger now, closer than ever. In the distance, dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. A new day, a new beginning, and somewhere in the darkness the Crimson Priestess was planning her next move. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, we had survived. And for now, that was enough. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The Crimson Priestess returned 3 days later, and she brought hell with her. I stood on the palace walls watching her army emerge from the tree line like a dark tide. Thousands of soulless, their empty eyes reflecting the dying sun. Behind them marched living wolves, shadow wolf clans who'd sworn allegiance to her cause. And at the center of it all, the priestess herself, seated on a throne of bone carried by 8 massive wolves. "She's not playing anymore," Damon said beside me. "This is everything she has. Then we give her everything we have in return." Kyle's voice was steady, but I could feel his fear through our partial bond. Not for himself, for me, for Damon, for the kingdom he'd spent centuries protecting. The bond between us had grown stronger since the tower. Not complete, not yet, but closer. I could feel both of them now. Damon's fire, Kyle's ice, 2 halves of a whole waiting to be united. But there was something else. Something the priestess had said that I couldn't stop thinking about. My finest creation. She'd shaped my entire life. Every moment of pain, every rejection, every lie I'd believed about myself. All of it orchestrated by her. But why? Why go to such lengths for a single wolf, even a divine Luna? Unless I was something more. "Eleanor." Lyra appeared at my shoulder, her face grim. "Our scouts report a secondary force approaching from the east. The priestess has allies we didn't know about." "Who?" "Silver Ridge. Marcus brought his entire pack." Of course he did. Even now, even after everything, Marcus couldn't resist the chance to claim what he thought was rightfully his. "Let them come," I said. The words surprised me with their steadiness. Let them all come. This ends tonight. The battle began at sunset. I fought beside the twins, my power blazing silver and gold. We moved like we'd trained together for years, Damon striking from the left, Kale from the right, and me at the center, burning away everything that came too close. The partial bonds between us hummed with shared strength, shared purpose, but the soulless kept coming. Wave after wave, an endless tide of corrupted flesh and empty eyes. For every one we destroyed, 10 more took its place. And then I saw her. My mother, or what remained of her, fighting at the edge of the battlefield. She moved differently from the other soulless, almost hesitantly, as if some part of her was still struggling against the curse. When her empty eyes met mine, something flickered there. Recognition, maybe. Or hope. "Mom," I whispered. A possibility crystallized in my mind. The ancient texts I'd studied spoke of the soulless curse and its cure. A divine Luna could restore what had been taken, could heal even the most corrupted soul. But the cost was devastating. To save the soulless, I would have to sacrifice my own divine power, every drop of it. If I did that, I couldn't complete the bond with Kyle, couldn't unlock my true potential, couldn't save the kingdom. But I could save my mother. "Elena," Damon's voice cut through my thoughts. "Behind you." I spun too late. A soulless wolf slammed into me, knocking me to the ground. Before I could react, crimson magic wrapped around my wrists and ankles, binding me in place. The crimson priestess stepped through the chaos, her black eyes gleaming. "At last," she breathed, "the final piece of my puzzle." Shadows swirled around us, and the battlefield vanished. I woke in darkness, not complete darkness. Crimson light pulsed from torches mounted on stone walls, illuminating a chamber that seemed carved from living rock. Ancient symbols covered every surface, and at the center of the room sat an altar of black stone. The priestess stood before me, her robes trailing behind her like wings. "Where am I?" My voice echoed strangely. "The heart of my temple, the place where I will finally take what should have been mine centuries ago." She circled me slowly, her black eyes drinking in every detail. "Do you know what you truly are, Elena? Not just what they've told you, what you really are? I'm the Divine Luna. A title, a prophecy, a role to fill." She laughed. "But that's not what I asked. Do you know what you are?" I didn't answer. "The moon goddess had a daughter." The priestess's voice dropped, becoming almost reverent. "Her only child, born of moonlight and divine love. A being of pure power, capable of creating or destroying entire worlds. But the goddess knew that power would attract enemies, threats, those who would use her daughter for their own ends." She stopped in front of me, her face inches from mine. So she hid her, stripped away her memories, sealed her power, and placed her in mortal form among ordinary wolves. A divine princess disguised as an omega, waiting until the time was right to reclaim her birthright. The words washed over me like cold water. "You're lying." "Am I?" The priestess smiled. "Think about it. The mark that's been on your wrist since birth. The power that awakens whenever you're threatened. The fact that two immortal sons of the moon goddess recognized you instantly as their mate." She leaned closer. "You're not just blessed by the moon goddess, Elena. You're her daughter, her heir, her legacy." "That's impossible." "Is it? Your mother, your guardian, Maria, was assigned to protect you, to raise you in secret until you were ready to claim your true identity. But I found her first. I corrupted her, made her one of mine." The priestess's eyes glittered. "And I placed you with a family who would ensure you never discovered what you truly were." Everything she said made a horrible kind of sense. The mark, the power, the way the twins had knelt before me like I was something holy. The instant recognition, the ancient prophecy, the impossible destiny that had felt too big for a simple Omega from Silver Ridge. Because I wasn't a simple Omega. I never had been. "Why tell me this now?" I demanded. "If you wanted to sacrifice me, why reveal the truth?" "Because I want you to understand." The priestess's smile faded, replaced by something raw, something wounded. "I want you to know that I'm not a monster. I'm a victim, just like you were." "A victim?" "The moon goddess had many children once, divine beings of light and power." Her voice cracked. "I was one of them, her firstborn, her favorite, until she decided I wasn't worthy of her love anymore." I stared at her. The hatred, the obsession, the centuries of scheming. Suddenly it made sense. "She rejected you," I whispered. "Cast me out." Tears streamed down the priestess's face, carving tracks through her perfect composure. "Stripped me of my divinity, cursed me to this half-existence. I was supposed to fade into nothing. Instead, I survived. I rebuilt myself. And I swore that one day I would take back what was stolen from me." She grabbed my face, her nails digging into my skin. "Your mother abandoned you too, hid you away, let you believe you were worthless, let you suffer for years. We're the same, Elena. We're both daughters who were thrown away. We're not the same, I said quietly. She hid me to protect me. You hide yourself behind hatred because it's easier than healing. The priestess's face twisted with rage. She raised her hand, crimson magic swirling around her fingers, and the wall exploded. Kyle and Damon burst through the rubble, fighting side by side. For the first time in centuries, they moved as one, Kyle's ice and Damon's fire weaving together in perfect harmony. The priestess's guards fell before them like wheat before a scythe. "Elena!" Damon shouted, slashing through the chains that bound me. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine, but she—" I turned to point at the priestess, but she was already moving. Crimson lightning arced from her hands, striking Damon square in the chest. He flew backwards, slamming into the stone wall with a sickening crack. He crumpled to the ground and didn't move. "Damon!" I screamed. Kyle was at his brother's side in an instant, dropping to his knees beside the still form. "No, no, no, no!" He looked up at me, and I saw something shatter in his eyes. "He's not breathing. Elena, he's not breathing." The shared soul. If Damon died— "You can't save him," the priestess said calmly, "not without completing the bond. And by the time you do that, he'll be gone." Kyle made a sound I'd never heard from him before, a keen of pure grief. He cradled his brother's head, 5 centuries of conflict and rivalry forgotten in the face of losing the other half of himself. "I was wrong," he whispered. "All those years, all those fights, I was wrong. I can't lose him. I can't—" He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. "Eleanor, please, whatever it takes. I surrender. I choose this. I choose you. I choose him. Please." The words hit me like a physical force, complete surrender, total acceptance. Not because he had to, but because he finally understood what he stood to lose. I felt the bond snap into place. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced. Ice and fire merged inside me, becoming something new, something pure and bright and impossibly powerful. The partial connections I'd felt with each twin expanded, deepened, intertwined until I couldn't tell where I ended and they began. 3 souls, 1 bond, complete at last. Light exploded from my body. Not silver, not gold. Something beyond colour, beyond description. I felt myself changing, growing, becoming what I had always been meant to be. The mortal shell fell away, and for the first time in my existence I remembered. I remembered being born of moonlight, remembered my mother's face, my real mother, the goddess herself, as she made the terrible choice to hide me away. Remembered the love that had driven every sacrifice, every painful decision. I was Elena Valdez, the rejected Omega. I was also the Silver Luna, daughter of the moon, divine princess of the celestial realm. And right now, I was really, really angry. I raised my hand. Power flowed through me, not just mine, but Damon's and Kale's too, our bond amplifying everything we were. I pointed at Damon's still form and let the light pour out. His body arched off the ground. Colour returned to his face, and then he gasped, eyes flying open, sucking in air like a man who'd been drowning. "What?" he started. "Later," I said. "First, I have a priestess to deal with." I turned to face her. She stood frozen, her black eyes wide with terror. "You've completed the bond," she breathed. "You've awakened, after all my planning, all my preparations." "It's over," I said. She screamed and hurled everything she had at me. Crimson lightning, dark magic, curses older than civilization. I raised my hand and it all dissolved into nothing. I crossed the chamber in a heartbeat, moving faster than sight. One moment I was across the room, the next I stood before her, my hand closing around her throat. "I could destroy you," I said quietly. "Right here, right now. I could wipe you from existence so completely that no one would even remember your name." "Then do it." She was crying again. Not from fear, but from something deeper. End this. I'm tired of fighting, tired of hurting. Just let it be over. I looked into her black eyes and saw my own reflection. A daughter cast out. A woman told she was worthless. Someone who had been broken so many times she'd forgotten what it felt like to be whole. We weren't so different after all. No, I said. I pulled her close and pressed my forehead to hers. Light flowed between us, not destructive but healing. I showed her what I'd found with the twins. Love that didn't demand perfection. Acceptance that didn't require earning. Grace that was given freely, without conditions. I showed her what divine love was supposed to be. The priestess sobbed. The black bled from her eyes, revealing deep green underneath. The crimson robes faded to simple white, and the hatred that had sustained her for centuries crumbled to dust. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know, I said, and I forgive you. She collapsed in my arms, smaller somehow, diminished. The monster was gone, leaving only a broken woman who had finally stopped running from her pain. I turned to the soulless wolves who filled the temple, the army that had been summoned to destroy me. My army now. Let them go, I commanded. The curse shattered. Hundreds of wolves collapsed as their stolen souls returned. Flesh healed, eyes cleared. Humanity rushed back like a dam breaking. The soulless became simply wolves once more, confused and frightened, but alive. And among them, one wolf who mattered more than all the rest. Mum. I caught her before she fell. Her auburn hair was streaked with grey now, her face lined with decades of suffering. But her eyes, her real eyes, warm brown and full of love, looked up at me with perfect clarity. Eleanor, she breathed, my beautiful girl. I'm here. I've got you. She reached up to touch my face, her hand trembling. I tried to protect you. I tried so hard, but she found me before I could. It's okay. It's over now. You have to know. Her voice was fading, growing weaker with each word. Everything I did was for you, hiding you away, staying silent. I loved you every single day. I never stopped loving you. Tears streamed down my face. I know, Mom. I love you too. She smiled, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. My daughter, she whispered, my divine, precious daughter. Her eyes closed, her breath slowed, and in my arms, surrounded by love, Maria Valdez finally found peace. The war ended with a whimper, not a bang. Silver Ridge surrendered before dawn. Marcus himself knelt in the courtyard, surrounded by his wolves begging for mercy he didn't deserve. I gave it to him anyway. You may live, I said, looking down at the man who had once held my whole world in his hands. Your pack may live, but you will never again call yourself my alpha. You will never again speak my name. And if you ever harm another innocent wolf the way you harmed me, I will know. And I will come for you. He nodded frantically, unable to meet my eyes. Serena stood behind him, pale and trembling. Her belly was flat now. She'd lost the pregnancy during the war, though whether from stress or the curse of her own choices I couldn't say. I felt nothing. Not hatred, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just emptiness where my rage used to be. Go home, I told them, and pray we never meet again. They ran. All of them. Back to their pathetic territory, their broken promises, their hollow lives. I turned away without another thought. 1 month later, I stood on the palace balcony, watching the sun rise over a kingdom finally at peace. Arms wrapped around me from both sides. Damon pressed a kiss to my temple while Kyle rested his chin on my shoulder. Through our bond, I felt their contentment, deep and warm and utterly complete. The healers confirmed it this morning, I said quietly. Both of them went still. Confirmed what? Damon asked carefully. I took their hands and placed them on my stomach. Twins, I said. Naturally. For a moment neither of them moved. Then Damon let out a whoop of joy that probably woke half the palace, spinning me around and kissing me soundly. Kyle was quieter, but the tears in his eyes said everything. "Our children," he breathed. "Elena, we're going to have children." "2 of them," Damon added, grinning like a fool. "Gods help us all." I laughed, really laughed, the kind that comes from pure happiness. A sound I'd almost forgotten how to make. The kingdom was united. The Shadow Wolves had pledged their allegiance. The Crimson Priestess, Seraphina, her true name, was slowly healing under the care of the palace healers. And I was pregnant with the first divine children born in over 5,000 years. It was, by any measure, a happy ending. But that night, as I drifted off to sleep between my mates, I heard a whisper on the wind. A voice that sounded like my mother, my real mother, the moon goddess herself, speaking words that made my blood run cold. "The children you carry will walk between worlds, my daughter. They will hold the power to unite all supernatural kind under a single banner of peace. But power attracts darkness, and darkness is already stirring. In 18 years, your twins will face a choice that will determine the fate of every living creature. They will either save the world or end it." I opened my eyes. The room was quiet. Damon snored softly on my left. Kyle's arm was draped protectively across my waist. Everything was peaceful, safe. But as I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling the tiny sparks of life growing inside me, I knew that our story was far from over. The prophecy had been fulfilled, and a new one had just begun. The end. Or rather, the beginning. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like, and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily, and also to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.